Well, hello. Good evening, and welcome to today's episode of Start Being Visible podcast. Now, today is a solo episode, which means it's just me and you, and we're going to be talking about the subject of why your personal brand matters and what you can do about it. Very specifically, we're going to talk about how to build a strong personal brand in this session. So, if that is a topic that is of interest to you, I want you to stay tuned right here because in the next few moments that we're going to have together, we're going to get into all of everything to do with personal brand, building a personal brand. And we're not just talking about on LinkedIn, we're talking about on beyond. So, that's what we're going to talk about today. And of course, if you have any questions about this topic as you are listening, for those who are tuning in live, this broadcast live every Wednesday during the seasons at 6 o'clock UK time. It broadcasts live on LinkedIn and then it goes on a podcast afterwards. So if you are listening on the podcast, you are so welcome to come and join me live during one of these live recordings. When we talk about the topic of personal branding, sometimes the mistake that people make is thinking that, oh, this is only relevant if I have a business. So I want to let you know that you need to build and invest in your personal brand, whether or not you have a business, whether you're in business, whether you're an employee. A personal brand is going to be absolutely crucial for your professional success. So that's why we're talking about it today. And we're talking about it for both, whether you're in business or whether you're in employment, your personal brand matters. So I want you to let me know, as well as letting me know who you are and where in the world you're tuning in from. I want you to also let me know whether you're a business owner or whether you're an employee, because it all matters and building your personal brand is going to help you. So that's what we're talking about in today's session, why your personal brand matters and what you can do about it. Let me know if you got any questions on this topic as we go along. Drop your questions in the comment and I will absolutely get to your questions as we go through this live session. Now, let's start at the very beginning. So when we talk about personal branding, what on earth are we talking about? What does it mean to have a personal brand? Now, this is a word and a phrase that's kind of it's become is I would say it's become very, I wouldn't say quite cliche, but it's very common now. Maybe in the last few 5 years or so, it's become even more common. But I fell into personal branding, kind of by, I'd say by accident, because when I started the process of building my personal brand, I did not know that that's what I was doing because I didn't even know that such a thing existed. So quick background for those who are not familiar. So my background is I trained as a journalist and I worked in the media for a bit, and then I went into PR and then communications, but I always had a business on the side. And at some point, I found it necessary to kind of, even though I'm a private person naturally, right? And I hear this a lot, right, from especially my introvert friends. I'm an introvert, by the way. I hear this a lot from introvert friends, and they're like, oh, I can't be visible because like I'm a private person. I don't want all my stuff out there. But here's the thing that I understood. In order to really kind of establish yourself, whether on the career front or the business front, there's a certain element of yourself, especially in this day and age that we live in, right? In the social media, internet day and age, there's a certain element of yourself that needs to be out there, so to speak. That is part of building your brand. So I realized this. In hindsight, I realized that this is what I was doing. But as I went along my career and in my business, I started just showing up on social media. LinkedIn wasn't my main platform initially. It was one of the many platforms that I was on. There was a time I was really on Twitter, and I loved Twitter way back in the day. It was like such a great reactive platform. I would go to conferences and stuff, and I would, summarize my thoughts in little tweets and send it out there to the world, and people would respond and build relationships and networks. So Twitter, I was Twittering away, I was Facebooking away, and later on got into LinkedIn. But in that process of doing little bits out there, I started to build my brand, as in started to make a name for myself. And we'll talk about what it means to build your brand in just a second. But so my own journey to this was accidental. It wasn't a deliberate thing that I thought I'm going to build a personal brand because it's going to help me with my business, it's going to help me with my career. I found out after building my personal brand that it helped me with my business and it helped me with my career. And then I became intentional about it. And then I became intentional about teaching other people, women specifically, how to do this primarily on LinkedIn and beyond. So, this is what I'm sharing, why I'm sharing this topic with you in tonight's episode, because I want you to be intentional about building your personal brand. Because when you do, that is going to be key to your professional success, whether in your business or in your career. It really helps to build your personal brand. So, good to see you, Marcy. So keep dropping in the comments who you are, where you're tuning in from. Marcy from California. Good to see you. And my thing is a little bit delayed in terms of the comments coming through. So if I don't pick it up straight away, I will get to it. So just keep on typing where you are, where you're from, and whether you're an employee or an entrepreneur in the comments. So I know who's in the audience and we can tailor our discussion around that. So that's the starting place for this discussion around building your personal brand. Is I discovered this by accident initially, and then I became intentional about it, and then I started teaching people about it. And what I do in my business, I teach women specifically how to build their personal brands on LinkedIn. Now, but if we're going to talk about personal branding, we need to start with a definition of what exactly is a personal brand. And there's so many, if you type this and you Google this, you're going to find so many definitions out there, some more academic than others. But for me, the very basic essence of what a personal brand is essentially what people say about you when you're not in the room. You know, what do people say about you? How are you known by other people? How are you remembered? What is the thing that that people associate you with, you know, when your presence is not there physically? That is your personal brand. Now, some people will say, well, no, it's not. It's not that simple, because personal brand, if it's not intentional, then it's not a personal brand. Well, here's the thing. The truth is, whether or not you are intentional about building your brand, your personal brand, you have a personal brand. There is a way that people identify you. There is a thought process that people have when they think of you. So you might as well own your personal brand. You know, you might as well take charge of that. Don't leave it to accident. Don't leave it by accident. Don't just let other people define what you want to know for, be known for. That really take the time to craft, what is my personal brand? What do I want to be known for? You know, so what do people say about you when you're not in a room? That is the essence of your personal brand. When somebody's describing you, let's say you're at you're someone, let's say a friend of, no, maybe not friend, let's say somebody, an acquaintance, right, is at a party and they're describing you to somebody else. And people, we tend to describe people by what they do, by what we know them for. What are they going to say about you? So I'll give you an example. Loads of people come up to me. So again, and there's a correlation between building your personal brand online and offline. So I did a lot of, in the early days, I did a lot of networking events, as in I was at every event. You can open an envelope and I'll be there. You know, not because I particularly like going to events, because as I said, I'm an introvert and like I don't love all of that kind of stuff. Oh, I didn't, you know, but because I knew that it was necessary to push myself out of my comfort zone, to go to places where I can meet people, I can hear things, I can learn things, I can build my network and all of that. So I did a lot of attendance of events and got to meet a lot of people in real life, and then translated those relationships online. And also it worked the other way around. I got to meet people online and then met them offline, so that the two are correlated. But if you when it comes to, so the personal brand is, imagine you go to one of these events, or someone goes to an event, an acquaintance, and they're trying to describe you to somebody else in a room, and they'll be like, yeah, there's that woman who does. So with me, a lot of people, it's like, oh, the visibility. Some people say visibility queen. You know, they say LinkedIn. Let them be like LinkedIn visibility. Yes, visibility. Start being visible. Like that's what they know me for. You know, the thing is, 4 years ago is when I started and I transitioned my business into LinkedIn visibility. Before that, for 12 years, I was known for something very different. I was known as the CV makeover expert, because that was my brand at the time. So that was my business brand, that and it correlates with the personal brand because it's all about how you want to be positioned in the world, right? And at the time, while I was running my business, my CV business for 12 years, it was actually called CV Makeover Expert. That was the thing that I was known for, CV Makeover Expert. So it was always like, and even to this day, I get the occasional people drop me an email out of the blue asking me to do their CVs because that's how much ingrained that brand was in some people's minds. And all of these principles we're going to pull apart in just a second to break it down to how you can make this for yourself. So essentially, I'm saying this to say that your personal brand is, you need to think carefully about, what do you want people to know you for? How do you want people to perceive you? What do you want them to think about you? What do you want them to say about you? How do you want them to introduce you at events that you're not present? That is the essence of your personal brand. And you must be intentional about it. You must be intentional about your personal brand. Don't leave it to by accident. Take the opportunity and be deliberate about building your personal brand. Okay, so that's the starting point. I want you to know that your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. I want you to recognize that you already have a brand, and I want you to own that brand. So decide what it's going to be and own it. So own it means that you really embody it, you really step into it, and you really get people to recognize you for that brand. And we'll talk about how to do that in a minute when we talk about how to build a strong personal brand. Now, for the employees amongst us, and I side hustled pretty much for my entire career for more than 12 years, which meant I had a day job and I had a business on the side. So I always had a foot in both worlds. I was an employee, but I was also a business owner, and I still built my personal brand. And this is what I want to tell you. If you are an employee, know that your personal brand belongs to you, not to your employer. Do not let your job suck your personal brand from you. Don't become your job. Don't become your job title. Don't say, because I have this job now, this is who I am. I am XY employee at XYZ firm, and that's what you build your brand around. No, because as we saw during the pandemic, and as we've seen, your employer, I'm sure they love you. I'm really sure they love you. But if they need to let you go to save some money, in the business, they will do that at the drop of a hat. And then if you built your entire brand around your job and your job title, guess what? You're left with nothing. So even if you are an employee, it's important that you establish your own personal brand outside of your work identity. And in fact, and I've written and I've talked about this, I did an episode in the last season about becoming, was it last season of the season? No, it was last season of the podcast of becoming an employee influencer, right? So even if you can get to a place where you build such a powerful personal brand that it actually positively influences every organization that you work for and every role that you're in. How do I know this? Because this is what I was able to do in my career. So my personal brand became an asset in the jobs that I was in. So don't be afraid to build your personal brand as an employee. In fact, not just don't be afraid, I actively encourage you to build your personal brand as an employee. It is an asset. Your personal brand is an asset that you can take with you from job to job, from place to place, from employment to business even. When you do that, you can have it to go with you. But if your personal brand is tied into your job title belongs to your employer. So that's not something that you can carry with you wherever, but your brand is something that you can carry with you wherever you go. If that has set you free, if you're listening to this and you're an employee and that has set you free, I want you to let me know in the comments. I want you to let me know. Say, Mildred, freedom. Just don't have it too loud in case your boss is watching. Only joking. But honestly, though, do that. So I want you to bear that in mind as we talk about this process of building your personal brand. Know that this is just as relevant for you as an employee as it is as a business for a business owner. And then last thing about it before we get into how to build a strong personal brand, your personal brand is your unique selling point, your USP. Your personal brand is something that cannot be replicated by somebody else. Now, and the reason it cannot be replicated, we will talk about in terms of how to build a strong personal brand. But when you build a strong personal brand, and the key word there for you to listen out for and to notice is personal brand, which is why I say it's your unique selling point, because it's personal to you. Now, two people, three people, 10,000 even can do the same thing, but no two of them can do it in exactly the same way, unless one is copying the other, just straight up copying, plagiarism, in which case take them to court, But honestly, there's like thousands and thousands of people who teach or coach LinkedIn, whatever you want to call it, who do essentially what I do, right, on LinkedIn. Help people with LinkedIn. I help women specifically, but there's not a single person who's doing it in the same way that I am. There's not a single person who brings the same things to the table in this realm that I do, because they are not me and I am not them. So your personal brand gives you a distinct advantage. It's your unique selling point. It's something that you need to lean into, not away from. So that's the backdrop of the personal brand. This is why it's really important that we understand that your personal brand matters and that it's something that you should be intentional about building. Now, let's get into how to build a strong personal brand. How can we build a strong personal brand? So we've identified that your personal brand matters. Now, how can we build a strong personal brand? Number one is, this is an easy one, but it's a hard one. It's a simple one, should I say, but it's a hard one for a lot of people. And the first one is this. The first how to on how to build a strong personal brand is to be yourself. Be yourself. Now, the reason this is simple, but it's hard, is because society in general conditions us to not be ourselves. From the time we grow up, from the time, like, maybe as kids, we're encouraged to dream, or encouraged to, like, some of us are encouraged, to dream. Like, what do you want to be when you're older? I want to be an astronaut. Yes, you can do it. I want to be a teacher. Yes, amazing. You're encouraged. Like, kids tend to dream freely. But then as we get older and as we get more mature, we start to conform to what is expected of us. So whereas when you're younger and you might be like, the freedom that you experience is the fact that you're different and you want to stand out, and you've got all these goals and all this stuff. But as we get older, we try to conform more because we don't want to stand out. We learn now that standing out is not a good thing. We learn that it's better for us to blend into the crowd. We learn that we don't want to be the tall poppy. We don't want to be the one who's, we don't want to assert ourselves too much, especially as women. We don't want to assert ourselves too much. We don't want to show off. We don't want to, so we keep all of these things under wrap, and we make it our mission to just blend in and be like everyone else because it's easier that way. But guess what? If that is your plan, if that is the pathway that you're on, that is going to make it incredibly difficult for you to build a strong personal brand. Because the starting place to build a strong personal brand is to be yourself. This is why I spoke about it being your unique selling point, because when you're you can be, no one, you is not taken. The position of you.com, right? You.com is vacant. It is not taken. The only person that can occupy that space is you. That's the only person that can occupy at the moment. As you may know, if you follow me on LinkedIn, you and you've read my posts or you're on my newsletter list, you may know that I'm currently in a period of transition in my professional life, where I'm kind of working out like the big purpose of life, almost, in a sense. What's next? Like, what's the purpose? What am I doing? And as part of that process, I was like, right, let me look at getting back into some employment, because I told you I've side hustled my whole life. I can do business and employment at the same time. So I was looking to go for an organization, to look for an organization that I can work in, maybe use my comm skills and all of that. And I found, and job hunting or looking for a role is one of the, oh my God, this is it like, and I wrote about this. If you're on my LinkedIn, if I we can put the show notes in, if I remember to tell my producer team to do it, right? We'll put the show notes in. But I wrote an article about how the unconscious bias in the job seeking system is essentially that employers are looking for people to fit into a box. to fit into a box. So we are encouraged, again, even in that whole process of finding a role, to fit into a box, because it's like, here's a box of what we're looking for. If you don't fit into this box, you are not going to be successful at the initial stage of even being sifted for interview, let alone anything else. So reject the boxes. I spoke to one of my mentors recently, and I was saying to him, I said, yeah, it's like I'm really finding that, I've had to tone myself down, to on my CV and stuff, so I can go for some of these roles, kind of thing. And he's like, no, 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 no. He's like, no, what you need to do is to do the opposite. You need to turn yourself right up, because what you have is unique. And this is what's going to help you stand out in the job market. The fact that you're unique. If you tone it down, you're just going to be like everybody else, and yes, all the companies that are looking for just everybody else are not the right place for you anyway, because you're going to get there and you will hate it. You're going to be bored, because all the skills and everything that you bring to the table is not going to be taken advantage of. You won't be able to use them because you're just fitting yourself into a box. He said, don't tone down, turn it up, turn the volume right up, and the right organization will see that and love that about you. So that's the thing. And I was like, okay, all right, great. It's great to have some perspective on this, because I've never been good with boxes either, Claire. I've never been good with boxes, and I don't fit easily into a box. And in fact, I don't want to, and neither should you. And this is the thing. So many of us spend our lives fitting into boxes designed by other people. And in so doing, it's like you're this, what is it that they say, the round peg trying to fit into square holes. You're this round peg and you're trying to cut yourself left, right, and center to fit into holes that weren't created for you. I'm telling you right now that you don't need to be doing that anymore. You need to be yourself. If you're going to really build a strong personal brand, you need to lean into who you are and know that if you're in an employment space and it's about career for you, the right organization will appreciate that. If you're in a business space, know that your clients will appreciate that. That's the thing that will draw them to you. You being yourself, not yet another carbon copy of everybody else. You don't need that. We don't need another version of somebody else. We need the one version of you that's out there and available. So that is the very first step to building a strong personal brand. Start with being yourself. That's where we start with that. So number one, that's number one. Oh, Claire, listen, that we've got to be real. And yes, don't go and fit into those boxes. Do not fit into those boxes. Reject the boxes. That's number one. Be yourself. The second thing, number two of I've had to build a strong personal brand, is you need to be known for something. You need to be known for something. So what do you want to be known for? Think about it. What do you want to be known for? When I ask people, I tend to ask this question too before I take on coaching clients. In the course of the conversations, at some point, I say to them, what do you want to be known for? And sometimes people start answering this question by saying, I want to be known for being kind, for being a good human being, and all of that. And that's great. That's wonderful. That's more to do with character attributes. And you should be those things anyway. You should be kind. You should be loving and good to people. But when I say, what do you want to be known for? I'm talking about in the professional context of, in line with the work that you do. What do you want to be known for? How do you want people to identify your contribution to the world? So what is that contribution to the world that you want to make? What's the change that you want to make? Now, if you can line this up with your beliefs and your values and your passion, then you've really got the ingredients of a strong personal brand. Because when that happens, when you believe when you believe the things that you speak about, when you believe the things that you're sharing, it's easy to transfer that belief to other people. When you are passionate about your message, it's easy to transfer that passion to other people. So many of us, and I keep going back to the world of work, because And this is in my last, as I said, in my last business where I was working with people to change jobs, and I did this for 12 years. Is it really grieves me how many people stay stuck at jobs they hate. Jobs that you hate. You know that you've outgrown this job. You know that this job does not serve you. You know that you're not happy there. You know that the environment is not good for you. You know that you have dreams to do other things, but yet here you are, 2 years later, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, stuck. And that should not be the case. We spend far too much of our lives at work to just settle for doing any and everything, that we just to pay the bill. Yes, there are seasons where you just, for financial reasons, you just need a job to pay the bill. But that should not be the definition of your entire work life. I really believe that God created each of us with a purpose, and there is a place that when we plug into this place, we can really shine. And some of that, and part of discovering that, is really kind of plugging into this. What are my beliefs? What are my passions? What are my values? What's the difference that I want to make in this world? Because I believe every single one of us has a difference that we have to make. We're not all going to be world changers, but we can change somebody's world. We can change our world. We can change the world around us. We can make a change somewhere. And it starts with really identifying and plugging in with your personal brand. What do I want to be known for? When you are known for something, that is really, really good for building a strong personal brand. And the thing about that is that it then becomes easy for you to, if we talk about it on a practical level in terms of creating content around what you're known for, it becomes easy for you to do that because these are things that's coming from inside of you. It's not a hat that you're trying to put on. It's not something that somebody else, like soul's armor, I like to call it. There's a story in the Bible of David and Goliath. Most people know David goes and kills the giant, but before David goes and kills the giant, he goes to King Saul, because everybody's scared of this giant, right? And even the King Saul, he's scared of this giant, and he's like this strapping tall king, powerful, loads of battles, all of that kind of stuff. But this giant is a giant. So David's like, listen, I'm coming. I'm gonna slay this giant. I'm gonna do it in the name of the Lord, right? And Saul's like, okay, fine, but take my armor with you. And David tries to put on Saul's armor and like all these heavy gear, and this seems like a big man, and David's this little boy, and it's not working out. The armor is not fitting. He's like, you know what, Saul, I respect you, king, but you keep your armor. I'm going to go out there with my 5 stones and my sling. And that's how I'm going to kill this giant. And that's exactly what he did. And he killed the giant with his 5 stones and his sling. So I always say, reject Saul's armor. Like, go out into the world how you were created. What is your brand? Don't define your life by what other people expect of you, by what you think that you should be doing, by what the positioning that you suddenly find yourself in, or you found yourself. And just because this is what you've always done doesn't mean that's what you always should do. I believe that everybody needs some point in your life where you take a break from your career, or at least create some space to actually explore what is it that I'm truly passionate about, and what contribution do I want to make in the world, and start building your brand around that. Because you're not going to be here forever. Neither am I. We have a limited time on this earth. And what is the point of it if we don't contribute in the most powerful way possible? And you can do that through building your personal brand. So, number 2, be known for something. So, number 1, building a strong personal brand, be yourself. Number 2 is be known for something. If this is helping you, let me know in the comments. If this is convicting you, also let me know. If it's bringing up questions for you, drop it in the comments. I'd love to help you with that, But the third thing that you need to do to build a strong personal brand is to have an opinion. You need to have an opinion. You might think, okay, Mildred, what do you mean by that? What do you mean have an opinion? Again, so many of us, and I'm gonna come right out and say this, that I hate this whole cancel culture society that we live in today. I really hate that. I hate the fact that no one's allowed to have an opinion. or only certain people can have opinion, or if this opinion is not popular, you get cancelled, or whatever it is. I think that's really not good or healthy for us as a society in general. If you are going to build a strong personal brand, you need to have an opinion and you need to express your opinion. Now, am I saying that you talk about any and everything left, right, and center? No. I'm talking about, if we look at the fact that we're building a personal brand here, but in a professional context of your space, whether it's your area of employment, of your area of business, your space, and you're building a brand around this, then you need to have an opinion about things in your field, you know. And even the worst thing you can be is lukewarm. Honestly, being lukewarm is like, oh, again, a biblical reference, right? There's a scripture that talks about when you're lukewarm, it's like you just get spat out. No one likes lukewarm tea. If the tea is too hot, you can cool it down. If it's cold, then it's iced tea. That's a different brand. But when it's lukewarm, what is that? No one wants lukewarm tea. Do not be lukewarm tea. Have an opinion about stuff. And guess what? Some people will disagree with your opinion. And that is absolutely okay. That is absolutely okay. Your job is not to be liked by everyone. I'm not saying be deliberately controversial just so you can stir things up. No, that doesn't help you, doesn't help humanity. But I'm saying if you believe in something, stand by it and express that opinion, even if it's unpopular, even if people don't like it. Even if it's just do it. It's much better, because you cannot build up a strong personal brand sharing other people's voice, because your opinion is part of how you get your voice out there in the world. It's how we know what you're thinking. Now, this podcast I'm making right now, I'm sharing my opinions with you about personal branding. Someone else might have a completely different approach to it, and that's okay. That's them. They're not me. This is my opinion. This is my way. This is what I've discovered. This is what I'm sharing with you. So many women, as classes, I always have an opinion, but I rarely voice it. That is an issue that I come across so often with my clients, with the women that I work with. It's that all of us have an opinion, but again, we get conditioned to not voice that opinion. We get conditioned that our voice doesn't matter. We get conditioned that, oh, no one wants to hear it anyway, or, oh, other people have already said it, or other people are saying the same thing, or, oh, that person says it better than me, or what if I sound foolish? What if my opinion is silly? And there's all of these hang-ups we have about our opinions. But if you do not express your opinion, you cannot build a strong personal brand, because no one knows what you stand for. I actually admire politicians who come straight out, and public figures who come straight out and say whatever nonsense is in their head, right? But at least it's better that it's when it's out in the public, then at least I know where you stand. The worst ones are the ones where they go with the wind, whichever direction. You don't know where they stand, because they never voice an opinion about anything, because people think that's the way to play it safe by not voicing your opinion. It is not. It's the way to be forgotten. It's the way to be bland. It's the way to be lukewarm. You have to have an opinion, and you have to express that opinion, like in your field. So there's a lot of so when I first entered the field of LinkedIn coaching, and it was kind of like, I was like, what qualification did I have, to become a so-called LinkedIn coach? I'm not even a qualified coach, hey, shock horror, but guess what? So guess what? What people don't care about, people don't care about how many letters you have after your name and all of that kind of stuff. They want to hear from you. They want to hear your opinion. They want to hear what you've got to say on the topic after you build a brand. So I built my brand by standing by the things that I thought about what I was experiencing. So my LinkedIn coaching experience came from practical use. It's like, here's what I've learned from working with this type of people in crossover in my CV makeover work that I was doing. And here's what I've also learned from my own experience of using LinkedIn to build my brand. So therefore, here's my opinion. Not only that, I went as far as writing a book with my entire opinion about how to use LinkedIn to build your personal brand, So a lot of the people that we call experts today are people who had the courage and the confidence to stand strong on opinions that then became accepted as the norm. That is the truth. Their opinions became accepted as the norm. So that is a lot of the thing. But so many of us, as tires of self-censorship, we censor ourselves, and if you do not stop censoring yourself, you cannot build a strong personal brand on LinkedIn. I want to be the one to let you know that your voice matters, your opinion matters, and your people want to hear from you. They don't want you to keep sharing endless quotes from Steve Jobs and Nelson Mandela and whoever else, right? That's great. Steve Jobs, Nelson, nothing against all those people. They're all wonderful. But what are you saying? What's Marilyn saying? What's Tayo saying? What's Jennifer saying? What's Grace saying? What are you saying? That's what they want to hear. That's what your audience wants to hear. And that is how you build a strong personal brand, by having the courage and the confidence to voice your opinion. And by the way, courage comes before confidence, because as you do it, as the cliche as it might be, as you feel the fear and do it anyway, confidence comes after that. If you wait for confidence to come before you start, it will not come. You will still be terrified, but you do it, and you do it scared initially, and then eventually it gets to the place where you're doing it and it's not so scary. And then eventually it gets to the place where you're doing it and you might actually enjoy it. That has been my process with even what I'm doing here, speaking to you on live, on LinkedIn Live. I used to be terrified of public speaking in my younger days. Terrified. If you had told me today that I would come to a point in my life where not only am I not terrified of public speaking, that I do it on a regular basis, that I get paid very well to do, I would have said you are a liar, because that's not Mildred. But here we are. There is nothing that you cannot overcome. Let me tell you that now. I ain't trying to take you to church today, but let's just repeat that. There is nothing that you cannot overcome. Yeah, if you set your mind to it and you're determined to do it, you can absolutely do this. But if you're going to build a personal brand, a strong personal brand, you must get used to sharing your opinion and not worrying about what people will think of it. Let them think. People are going to think what they want of you anyway. Let them. That's not your business. That's not your job to worry about what other people think of you. Your job is to contribute to the world in your space in a meaningful way. And that's all you need to focus on doing. So that's number 3 of building a strong personal brand. So number 1, be yourself. Number 2, be known for something. Number 3, have an opinion. Number 4, I should have said this is out of 5, by the way. So 4 or 5. Number 4 of how to build a strong personal brand is to create things. So create products, create experiences, create memes. Now, if you follow me on LinkedIn, every so often I'd have like little memes, where I share quotes by guess who? By Mildred. That's right. So these quotes is like little. So I have a picture of myself on it, and I have a little quote or something, and then I probably explain it in the body of the text. But it's like, because I'm very big on personal development. I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of listening to podcasts and attending stuff, feeding my mind. Reading my Bible, spiritual growth, all of that kind of stuff. And as I'm learning and going through stuff, I'm learning stuff and I'm growing, I'm processing. So one of the ways that I put it out there is I express it on, this is what I post on LinkedIn and all these other places. It's an expression of my own growth. So I'll tell you, me posting and sharing and being visible, a lot of it is for me. It's for me. Secondly, it's for everybody else. But the first is for me. It's an area of expression. Every single one of us, as human beings, there's something in us that we just need to express ourselves, express ourselves somehow. This is why God gave us mouths to talk. We need to express ourselves, and expression is part of living, finding that avenue to express yourself, the thoughts that are in your head, the things that you're learning, the way you're going through life, especially if you get to a certain age and stage in life. you would have clocked up so much experience behind you that you've got something to say that's going to benefit somebody. So to really to really not personalize that, how do I say it? To really consolidate, that's the word I'm looking for. To really consolidate that into a personal brand, it's important that you create products, you create experiences, you create things around it, around this brand that you're building. So some really obvious examples: write a book, for example. So let's start with writing content before we go to write content. If you don't already post regularly on platforms like LinkedIn, start today. Start being visible. That's a great way to build your personal brand. When you create content and you put it out there, you're crystallizing your thoughts, you're capturing your experiences, you're putting it out into the world. Now you can take that further and write a book. Now, a lot of people get intimidated by the idea of writing a book. They're like, oh, no, no, no. Someone, a friend, put on LinkedIn, I suggested, he had a really good title for a book. And I said, that's a really good title for a book. And he said, yeah, but I'm not the book writing type. I'm like, what? There is no such thing as a book writing type. I believe that every single person has the potential to write at least one book. We have at least one book inside of us. And I've written 4 books so far, 4.5, if you count the fact that I wrote Start Being Visible, my LinkedIn book, and then I wrote an updated version of it, which was a lot of work. So I count it as 4.5, and that came out last month, the updated and revised version. But it's like a book is a really good way to consolidate your personal brand. It's an excellent way to kind of take out all the thoughts that are in your head, put it in something that other people can benefit from. So I want you to consider writing a book. You might be listening to this right now. You already have an idea for a book. I want you to start working on it, start getting that out. Make it your target to get it out this year. This year is of this podcast, 2024. You have got to get that book out and that book written, because guess what? The world needs to benefit from that knowledge that's inside of you, from all that expertise that's inside of you. And it is a brilliant way to get your personal brand out there in a different way. So create products, create experiences. So things like speaking engagements, find platforms to speak at, go on podcast interviews, go around the circuit, speak. Mildred, I'm terrified of speaking. How can I be speaking? You can absolutely overcome the terrified of speaking thing. I'm telling you, as somebody who was terrified of public speaking, and look at me today, So even sometimes before I go on these lives, I'm like, Mildred, why are you doing this live again? Like, no one is making you do this. You are choosing to put yourself in this situation, in this position. Why? Are you crazy? Yes, a little bit. But I'm crazy about expressing my purpose. I'm crazy about getting out here and sharing the things that I have inside of me that's going to help you. And I want you to get crazy about doing that also, because there are people who are going to benefit when you start being visible, when you build your personal brand and you start owning it. And you start owning it in all these different ways. You're going out, you're speaking at places, you're creating events, you're putting content out there that people can buy into, as in literally buy into the ideas in your head, or services that people can literally buy into. But all of this help to build a strong personal brand, because you're giving people the opportunity to experience you in multiple ways. So if you're in a work environment, if you're in a work setting, what that could look like is it's related to visibility. So what that could look like is the contributions that you make inside your organization. Now, do not fall into this trap that so many women fall into, and you may be in this trap, in which case, get out, get out now of this trap. That trap is this idea that if I just get on with my work, keep my head down, my good work is going to speak for me. And my work is going to open doors for me. And that promotion that I've been waiting for the last 5, 6, 7 years that still hasn't come is just going to come if I just keep working hard a little bit more. I'm so sorry to tell you this, but no, it's not happening. It's not coming, because you just keeping your head down isn't going to cut it. You need to actively own your personal brand. You need to actively own how you want to be remembered within the organization that you're in. You need to create experiences around that. So I'm talking in meetings. Don't not say anything in meetings. Raise your hand, contribute something. Don't worry about who's gonna think it might be silly. Pete over there might snigger. Pete don't know anything. You probably know more than Pete, but Pete's ahead of you. So you need to stop that stuff, and you need to really kind of build that strong personal brand by creating products, experiences, ways for people to get to know you more beyond just the surface level, because that's how you solidify your personal brand. Let people get to know you some more, and build on that. So, which leads to the very final point around this on how to build a strong personal brand, is that you have to be consistently visible. You have to be consistently visible. It's not building a personal brand is not a one and done affair. It's not something that you just do once and think, oh, that's it. I now have a personal brand. Oh, I showed up once and, I raised my hand once in a meeting. Oh, I put out one post today on LinkedIn. Now I have a personal brand. No, it has to be consistent. You have to be repetitive around it. What is it that they say about, I was going to say repetition is the mother of invention, but that is not the quote. I am really terrible at taking quotes and butchering them and just coming up with my own versions. So that was not the quote that I'm looking for. But the idea is that the more you repeat something, the more you reinforce that thing. So the more you repeat the whole process of building your personal brand and what you want to be known for, being consistent about that. So for a season, I drummed in the visibility message everywhere I went. Start being visible, start being visible. This podcast is called Start Being Visible. My LinkedIn book is called Start Being Visible. A lot of my posts and I create my content is about visible, 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 because I'm drumming home the message. And this is the message that I currently the message that I speak on and I share and I teach and I coach. And it's the whole idea of being visible is the key to changing your professional life, whether that's as an employee or as a business owner. Be visible and build your personal brand in that process. So when you build that personal brand and you're consistently visible with it, you start to drum that message home in other people's minds. So then they start to associate you with that personal brand that you have created for yourself. And this is how, when you now leave the room and they say, oh, Renee was here, Taya was here, Marilyn was here. What are they about? What is the thing that you can, how do you describe, what does Marilyn do? What does Taya do? Whatever. People will be able to say, oh, she does this. This is her specialism. This is what you go to her for, because you've drummed it in so long, so consistently that you brainwash people in a good way into knowing what you stand for with your personal brand. And when you do this, you build a strong personal brand that I guarantee you will open doors of opportunity for you that most of them you probably would never have expected. One of the greatest things that happened as a result of building my personal brand on LinkedIn was that last year, or the year before. I don't know. It's been so long, right? I think it was the year before, right? So I got to go to 2 new countries and deliver workshops in Budapest and Lithuania. On personal branding workshops for female politicians. And that would not have happened had I not established my personal brand on LinkedIn, and somebody, a friend an old friend, an acquaintance, was able to kind of say, yes, Mildred does this and she's a great fit for that, because of the fact that I was consistent with that message and I was consistently visible, known for this thing, and I was the right person for that particular opportunity. And there's been so many other opportunities like that. And there are so many opportunities waiting for you when you start being visible and when you get intentional about building your personal brand. So that is it for today. So just a quick recap again. I want you to, if you don't leave with anything else, I want you to leave with this idea that your personal brand is so crucial. It's important, but it's something that you must nurture. It's something that you have to be intentional about. Do not leave it to chance. Don't leave it to, it will just take care of itself. Don't do that. Be intentional about it. Take the first step today. to start nurturing and building that strong personal brand for yourself. Now, on that note, I want to know what that first step is, because there's nothing quite like accountability to keep you committed to something. I know some of you have said in the comments that you're going to start, this is your year to write your book. So, absolutely great, fantastic. What are you going to commit to as a result of listening to this podcast today? What has been your biggest takeaway? What is the one thing that you're going to do differently as a result of this podcast? What are you going to do to build your personal brand? Let me know in the comments if you're watching this live, and if you're listening on the podcast or you're watching on replay. Also, let me know in the comments. If you're listening on the podcast, write to me, reach me on LinkedIn, or send me an email. You can find my contact details through my website, mildredtalabi.com. Send me a message and let me know what your takeaway was, and of course, if you've enjoyed the session and it's been useful to you. And I want you to like, rate, whatever people do the podcast, right? To make more people find it. Go do that. Go comment, go rate, go like, go tell somebody about it. And of course, if you need some support in building your personal brand, specifically on LinkedIn, reach out to me, because that is what I specialize in. So you can find out more about the different ways I work when you go to startbeinvisible.com/work with Mildred. But of course, reach out to me on LinkedIn, and we can definitely connect and talk some more about what we can do together. But okay, awesome. So great to see it coming in the comments, all of the action points that you're going to take as a result of this. We are going to sign up for this session, but I will be back here this season 2. We've got another couple of more weeks. This season ends on the 13th of March. So we've got 3 more weeks for season 2. And then we have a little break for season 3. So I want you to join me back here Wednesday, 6 o'clock, for another session of Start Being Visible. So with that said, thank you so much for joining tonight. And I look forward to seeing all of the amazing things that you're going to do as a result of building your personal brand from this conversation. Take care.